Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The silk of my tuxedo choked me tighter than a lover's hands, but it was the realization that I was about to commit social suicide that made my heart hammer against my ribs like a trapped bird. There was no turning back now. The organ music was already bleeding through the heavy oak doors, and the man waiting at the altar wasn't just a groom. He was a weapon I had loaded myself. 3 years. That was the price tag on my naivety. 3 years of stolen glances in crowded ballrooms, of breathless whispers in the back of limousines, of believing that love was enough to conquer the rigid hierarchy of our world. I stood before the full-length gilded mirror of the cathedral's dressing room, adjusting the pearl cufflinks that felt cold against my wrists. I looked at Julian Vane, the reflection staring back, pale, composed, seemingly fragile. But the eyes were different. The softness that had defined me, the desperate adoration that had made me malleable, was gone. It had been cauterized the night I watched the man I loved slip a diamond ring onto a woman's finger on national television. The door behind me didn't just open. It slammed against the wall with a violence that shook the perfume bottles on the vanity. I didn't flinch. I didn't turn around. I simply watched through the mirror as Cassian Thorne, the heir to the Thorne shipping empire, the golden boy of the city, and the man who had kept me as his dirty little secret for 36 months, stormed into the room. He looked frantic. His hair, usually gelled to perfection, was disheveled. His breathing was ragged, his chest heaving beneath a suit that cost more than my father's entire estate. Is it true? Cassian's voice was a low growl, vibrating with an anger he had no right to claim. He kicked the door shut behind him and locked it. Tell me it's a lie, Julian. Tell me you aren't actually going out there. I turned slowly, smoothing the lapel of my white tuxedo. You're not on the guest list, Cassian. My fiancé is quite particular about security. I'm surprised you made it past the guards. Fiancé. Cassian crossed the room in 2 long strides, grabbing my shoulders. His grip was bruising, possessive. You don't have a fiancé. You have me. You've always had me. I had a ghost. I corrected, my voice steady, though my insides were churning acid. I had a man who visited me after midnight, and left before the sun came up, so the paparazzi wouldn't catch a glimpse of his shame. It was necessary. Cassian shouted, shaking me slightly. You know how my father is. You know the merger with the Delicados was essential for the company. My marriage to Elena is a business transaction, Julian. It's ink on paper. It has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with us, I whispered. You stood at an altar 3 months ago. You said vows. You kissed her. And I came straight to your apartment afterward, he argued, his eyes wild with a desperate, twisted logic. I spent my wedding night in your bed. Doesn't that prove how much I want you? I risked everything to be with you. I gave you the penthouse, the car, the allowance. You gave me a cage. I stepped back, forcing his hands off me. You wanted a wife to secure your legacy and a mistress to satisfy your heart. You were greedy, Cassian. You wanted to eat the cake and keep it on the shelf, too. I am trying to protect you. He paced the small room, running a hand over his face. Who is he? Who is this idiot you dragged off the street to make me jealous? Is it some waiter? An actor you hired? I'll pay him double to walk away. Name the price, Julian. I let out a dry, humorless laugh. It was tragic, really. Even now, he thought this was a game. He thought I was a pet acting out for attention. He couldn't conceive of a world where Julian Vane made a move that wasn't dictated by his orbit. He isn't an actor, I said softly. And you can't buy him, Cassian. He has more money in his liquidity fund than your family has in assets. Cassian froze. He turned, his eyes narrowing. What are you talking about? You kept me in the shadows for 3 years, I said, walking toward him until we were inches apart. You told me we had to be secret because the world would tear us apart. You made me feel small, worthless. So, when you married Elena, I realized something. I didn't need to hide. I just needed a partner who was strong enough to stand in the light with me. Who is it? Cassian demanded, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Who touches what is mine? Yours. I scoffed. You sold your rights to me the moment you said, I do, to someone else. Tell me his name. Cassian roared, grabbing my wrist again, twisting it painfully. Alaric. A deep, baritone voice resonated from the other side of the room. The lock on the door clicked. We hadn't heard it open. Or perhaps, for a man like Alaric Blackwood, locks were merely suggestions. Cashin whipped around, dropping my wrist as if it burned him. Standing in the doorway, filling the frame with an oppressive, dark charisma, was Alaric Blackwood, the Duke of the Underworld, the man who owned half the city's real estate and all of its secrets. He was dressed in a tuxedo of midnight black velvet, the sharp contrast to my white making us look like opposing chess pieces. His silver eyes were cold, predatory, and fixed entirely on Cashin. Alaric Blackwood, Cashin stammered, the color draining from his face. The arrogance evaporated, replaced by the primal fear of a gazelle spotting a lion. The Blackwoods and the Thorns had been rivals for a century, but it wasn't a fair fight. The Thorns played dirty, the Blackwoods played to kill. "You're touching my groom," Alaric said. He didn't shout. He didn't have to. His voice carried the weight of a gavel striking a death sentence. He stepped into the room, closing the door softly behind him. The air in the room suddenly felt thin. This is a mistake," Cashin said, stepping back, bumping into the vanity. "Julian, you can't be serious. This man is a monster. He's ruthless. He doesn't know how to love. He only knows how to acquire." "Correction," Alaric said, moving smoothly to my side. He didn't grab me. He didn't claim me with force. He simply stood next to me, a pillar of obsidian strength, and offered me his hand. I placed mine in his, and his fingers curled around mine, protective, warm, solid. I acquire things of value. I cherish things of worth. You, Thorn, treated a diamond like a piece of glass. He's doing this to get back at me. Cashin spat, looking between us. He's using you, Julian. He wants access to the vein shipping routes. He wants to humiliate me by taking my leftovers. The silence that followed was deafening. I felt Alaric's muscles tense beneath his suit, a coiled viper ready to strike. But I squeezed his hand, a silent signal. "Let me? Leftovers." I repeated, my voice trembling not with fear, but with the release of 3 years of suppressed rage. "Is that what I was to you? A scrap of meat you left on the plate while you dined at the head table?" "No, I didn't mean," Cashin started, reaching out. 3 weeks ago, I interrupted, my voice gaining strength. I went to Alaric. I offered him a deal. My family's routes in exchange for protection from you. I expected a contract. I expected a business arrangement. I looked up at Alaric, meeting those silver eyes that had terrified the city for a decade. In them, I saw no malice. I saw only a fierce, terrifying devotion. "Do you know what he said?" Cashin stared, mute. "He said he didn't want the routes," I whispered. "He said he'd been waiting for me to realize I was a king, not a concubine. He offered me marriage not for profit, but for power. My power." "He's lying," Cashin hissed. "He's incapable of—" "Get out," Alaric said. The command was simple, bored almost. "The ceremony begins in 5 minutes. And I dislike the smell of desperation in the room before I kiss my husband. I won't let this happen," Cashin snarled, his sanity fraying. He reached into his jacket pocket. For a split second, time suspended. I thought of the gun, the violence. But Alaric didn't pull a weapon. He didn't need to. He simply stepped in front of me, shielding my body with his own, and stared Cashin down with a look of such utter, chilling contempt that Cashin's hand froze. "Draw it," Alaric challenged softly. "Give me a reason to turn the Thorn legacy into a footnote in tomorrow's obituary. Do it, Cashin. Make my wedding day memorable." Cashin trembled. He looked at Alaric, then at me, peeking from behind the shoulder of the man who was willing to die for me, rather than hide me. The realization hit him then. He had lost. He hadn't just lost the game. He had lost the board, the pieces, and the player. Cashin's hand fell from his jacket. He looked at me one last time, his eyes wet, filled with a selfish, agonizing regret. "He'll break you, Julian. He's a beast." "Maybe," I said, stepping out from behind Alaric to stand beside him, interlacing our fingers. "But he's my beast. And unlike you, he doesn't keep me on a leash." Cashin backed away, fumbling for the door handle. He unlocked it, stumbling out into the hallway, a broken man who had everything and nothing. When the door clicked shut, the silence returned. But it wasn't heavy anymore. Alaric turned to me. His expression softened, the cold mask slipping to reveal the man beneath. He reached out, his thumb brushing my cheekbone, wiping away a stray tear I hadn't realized had fallen. "Are you all right?" he asked. "I am now," I breathed. "I meant what I said," Alaric murmured, leaning down, his forehead resting against mine. "I don't want the routes, Julian. I've watched you for years. Watched you dim your light for a man who was afraid of the sun. I don't want a secret. I want to show the world exactly who belongs to me." "And who is that?" I asked, my heart finally beating a rhythm of hope. "My partner," Alaric said, brushing his lips against mine. "A promise, not a consumption. My equal. My husband." The organ music swelled outside, a triumphant crescendo. "Ready?" he asked, offering his arm. I looked at the mirror one last time. The sad, broken boy was gone. Beside the devil of the city stood a man who had walked through fire and come out holding the flame. "Ready?" I said. We walked out the door, leaving the ghosts of the past locked in the dressing room. As we stepped into the aisle, hundreds of heads turned. I saw the shock, the whispers, the scandal. And somewhere in the back, I saw Cassian watching from the shadows. But as Alaric squeezed my hand and we ascended the altar steps, I didn't look back at the shadows. I looked at the man who had given me a crown when the other had only offered me chains. And that is how the broken bird found his wings in the arms of a dragon, leaving the snake to starve in the dust. If you enjoyed seeing Julian finally shatter his chains and choose the man who worships him, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, is it better to be a king's secret lover or a monster's publicly adored husband? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,